Hello all, this is Ayrok. I'm going to be going over special captains that are available in World of Warships. Uh, this video will basically be about what their special abilities are, what ships they fit on most proficiently, as well as getting the most out of those captains in World of Warships on said ships. Um, the captains I'll be covering today uh, in this video is going to be uh, the German captain Reinhard von Jutland, or what you could call them von Jutland brothers, as their Fran and Reinhard, John and George Doe, Victor and Vasily Zamansky. I'm sure I'm butchering that. Bert Dunkirk and John Dunkirk, Charles Henry Honore, and Jack Henry Honore. And what their abilities are, how they pertain to making the most out of your ship and getting the benefit of them over standard captains. Um, there's also a couple of other captains that are available, one of them being Alexander Ovechkin. He was available during the hockey campaign. Um, he is a unique captain in his abilities. I wouldn't say he's one of the better ones, but he is useful on a lot of different ships. He is available in a Russian and a U.S. flavor, as well as a Russian/U.S. flavor one if you bought them. I don't really understand why Wargaming did one that would go both ways, so to speak, no pun intended. But he's not a bad captain. He does have a unique ability in the fact that he can. His guns have color tracers that are blue, unlike the other two captains, which I'll explain in just a second, which are red. Just go over these and let you know what captains need to fit in what ships and which ones they fit best in and which ones they don't fit at all in, really. Basically, what I'll start out with is obviously the two biggest captains. When I say biggest, is that they have abilities that are both built in other words, they're passive. They are always there, always active, no matter if you're in randoms, ranked, clan battles, co-ops, whatever. They'll usually affect traverse, they'll affect adrenaline rush, they affect preventive maintenance, things like that. Then you have captains who are unique. There are two of them, one for U.S. and one for Japan. Those captains are William F. Halsey Jr., famous commander in the U.S. Navy during World War II. He has these talents over here, the left-hand side of the screen. He also has personalization abilities. Like Ovechkin, he has colored tracers, but his are red, just like his counterpart, Yamamoto. It's a Roku. He also has fireworks, just like Yamamoto is a Roku, and he has his own flag. If you mount this captain on any ship, it will get the flag. It'll be above the ship mainmast, above your traditional signal flags, to identify that that ship has its captain equipped. It doesn't really mean anything to the enemy. It's just mostly there for decoration and whatnot. The key points of this captain are his talent abilities. His talent ability is obviously the one where it says X2 is hit fast. It's the double strike achievement decreases your ship's detectability. Your detection goes down by 10% by sea and by air. So you have to obtain a double strike sometime in a random match. It does not work in clan battles. The other one is hit hard. The Confederate achievement will speed up the reload of the ship's armament and aircraft servicing. Your torpedo tubes reload at 10% faster, your main battery reloads 20% faster, and your aircraft are serviced 20% faster. His passive abilities are Expert Loader and Expert Marksman. Now, this captain is almost identical to George and John Doe. As you can see here on my Des Moines, they have the same passive abilities, Expert Loader and Expert Marksman, but they do not have talents. But they are still special captains, and they're still unique in that they have this ability when standard captains would not. As you can see on my Worcester captain, he doesn't have any special abilities. As well as my Gearing captain, he doesn't have any special abilities. The other one I spoke of was Yamamoto Isoroku. Over here, As you can see, his personalization is he has a broad pennant, which is the same thing as Halsey did. It's a flag. He has colored tracers. There again, they're red, and fireworks. Now, just to mention, the fireworks go off whenever you activate one of these talents on both Yamamoto and on Halsey. Um, Yamamoto's abilities are quite different than Halsey's. The first one is Concealed Reserves. The First Blood achievement provides additional charges for the consumables mounted on a ship by 1. So in other words, if you get the First Blood achievement, then you'll get 1 extra charge of whatever is on that equipped ship. Mine is currently on the Yamato, which means I'll get another heal, I get another spotter plane. If I had him on, say, Harugamo, I would get another smoke, another speed boost. Um, Same thing for Shimakaze. And then also, if you put him on, say, Zao, you would get another heal. You would get another hydro or defensive fire, depending on which one you have equipped. The other one is Second Wind. When you achieve Kraken Unleashed, you will partly restore the ship's HP and speed up the reload of her armament and aircraft servicing. This works similar to the way Halsey's did, except it's actually slightly better. In the fact that your torpedo tubes reload 16% faster, your main battery reloads 34% faster, and your aircraft is serviced 16% faster. And the amount of hit points recovered per second for 120 seconds. So for 2 minutes you heal. Now the reason that you're seeing a 0 right there is because it's pertinent to the ship that you're in. Obviously, the more hit points the ship has, the more the ship will heal. Now this isn't a heal in the traditional sense. It's not going to be just like hitting your repair party where you start repairing your ship or like a Royal Navy heal. But what it will do is it constantly ticks for 2 minutes, which is a long time. I don't remember. I've seen a video time or two on the Yamato and how much it will heal, but it will allow you to disengage, heal up, and it does heal up Citadel damage, and it heals up for a significant amount. The reason that this one is better than Halsey as far as this talent is because it requires Kraken Unleashed, and Kraken Unleashed is a lot harder to get than Halsey's Double Strike. Double strikes are actually pretty common in battleships, especially if you can time your shots correctly and your turrets are facing the right way. Krakens are a little bit harder for a lot of people to attain, thus making this talent a little more powerful. There again, these two talents, Second Wind and Concealed Reserves, do not activate in clan battles. The reason that these talents don't activate in clan battles, the him and Halsey both, is because the system in clan battles doesn't attain for ribbons or anything of that nature. In other words, you can't get a Confederate, you can't get a High Caliber, you can't get a Kraken Unleashed. It does not care how many kills you get. It's all about winning a game. So, for example, if you want to relate it to something such as football, if a quarterback throws 10 touchdown passes and the team wins, well, the center still wins, or the guard still wins, or the tackle still wins, or the linebacker, because they're all of a team and they're winning as a team. Also, because of these talents, they are extremely potent, so that they could actually turn the tide of a battle. Second Wind is extremely strong, as well as Halsey's ability. I have not been able to get a Kraken Unleashed on this ship since I've gotten Yamamoto on it. I have gotten quite a few First Bloods, which is always nice because you get the extra heal. And Yamato is very capable of getting a first strike because of her devastating guns. But I have gotten Confederate on Halsey several times, which is unique in the fact that if you get Confederate, it drops your reload by 20%. This changes Montana's reload from 30 seconds to 21 seconds, which is a significant boost in her DPM. It is pretty awesome, especially if you can get it early. Now, I was going to tell you about why these captains are important on certain ships. You could put these captains on any ship you want to. It does not matter what ship you put them on, but trying to put them on a ship that is going to maximize these captains' abilities in random matches is something that is quite hard to do. The reason that I have both these captains in battleships is because I find that it's easier for me to get Confederate in a battleship, especially the Montana, and it's easier for me to get a double strike just because of her ability to launch large AP, or not, excuse me, AP, large alpha strikes upon targets. Whereas we all know that one or two turrets can easily take out a cruiser or finish a cruiser off, or even a battleship off. So you could have your turrets turn, finish one battleship, quickly switch to the other one, as long as it's obviously not on the opposite side of the ship. Finish that one off, and boom, you've got your double strike, and you dropped your concealment by 10%. I don't think the double strike one is all that important because dropping your concealment by 10% is actually not that great on a battleship, because obviously to do that you're going to have to be having your guns firing. My current concealment with the legendary module on is 15.3. The legendary module here is here. It takes up the concealment slot, but I do believe it makes it a tankier build. And 15.3 is still acceptable. I mean, you're in Grosser Karfur's type range, and you are a battleship, so you should be taking damage anyways, and this really helps with that. I'm not going to go over captain skill points, so to speak, on each individual one, because this is a personal choice that I use. Mine is set up kind of a generic, conventional way on my Montana. A lot of people ask me, well, you play clan battles with an AA style build? Yes, but I also have Superintendent, I also have Adrenaline Rush. But if you look at my module on the Legendary, it reduces the fire extinguishing time by 15%, the flooding recovery time by 30%, and my rudder shift time by 30%. The steering gears repair time is pretty useless, simply because it's the only time you're ever going to lose steering gears is if you take something extremely powerful in the rear end, such as a torpedo or possibly a very devastating salvo through the rear. I don't remember the last time I actually lost steering gears on a Montana, so that is why I chose that. Like I said, the other ones I won't go into. You can figure it out yourself, but there again, these two passive abilities, Expert Marksman is very important because it allows my turrets to traverse 1 degree per second faster. Normally this ability is only half a second, so gaining half a second is quite a bit when you're trying to slew a gun that rotates as slow as this one does, which right now is at 36 seconds. I don't remember what the stock one is, but I think it's somewhere around 40 seconds to slew these guns around. Which can take quite a long time. So trying to get that down as low as possible is obviously something that you want to try to obtain. Some people would argue that you should probably take Expert Loader on Montana for dealing with DDs. Even though recently Wargaming said that they patched it to that DDs don't take full penetration, I think that they kind of missed the mark on it. Khabarovsk and Harugamo both still do. They said that they do, and that is correct. The problem is that I have seen it multiple times in my destroyers. Recently, actually about 3 days ago, in my Yu Yang, I took an 11K salvo from my Montana bow on. 11K. That's more than overpins. That was penetration damage. There's obviously something still wrong, and Montana has always been strong against destroyers. But that's the explanation of those. Now, back to Des Moines, where I have John Doe and his brother George Doe, which is available as well. You'll notice that in my build I use both Expert Loader and Expert Marksman. The reason being is because Des Moines' turrets are quite slow, and they're turning somewhere in the neighborhood of, right at 25 seconds with him equipped, and at 19 points. I do not have any kind of module that speeds that up because I don't want to decrease my fire rate. But so I want those guns swinging as fast as possible. The Expert Loader, though, is very important on Des Moines because her AP is extremely potent. And with this negative 75%, which it's normally at 50%, I can get my reload, my shell switching down to about 1.3 seconds, I think it is. It's fast, extremely fast. And in Des Moines, it matters. I run the range mod on Des Moines, so people run the reload mod. That's perfectly up to you on how you want to do it. But that will not affect this. This has to be on a fully loaded gun. So in other words, the guns have to be finished loading, you switch, and then immediately fire a salvo. What this does is this allows you a quick switch to targets that are coming out, say, behind an island broadside, and you just happen to see them. You can switch over to AP and get a nice solid AP salvo instead of having to fire off that first HE volley before he makes a turn and realizes that you're there. The other skills do not matter on this captain. That is personal preference and how you want to set that up. Going back over to Yamamoto. if you'll notice on him, his abilities are expert marksman and preventative maintenance. Now, those both give good abilities and allow you to use him on multiple different ships, just like John Doe and Halsey. Halsey could be used on a Des Moines because he does have the same abilities as George Doe, but I find that it's just easier to get these talents over here on this side activated in a random using a battleship. That's why I use them on this. But they're again expert marksmen because the slew rate on these big guns with the legendary equipped is 52 seconds. You can see the legendary equipped here. It reduces my main battery traverse speed by 19%. Or excuse me, increases it. So basically I have a 52 second to sling them 180 degrees. That is a long way to slew these big guns, which are already tremendously slow. But the legendary is worth it in the fact that you just get a much more accurate gun on a ship that is already notoriously accurate. The preventive maintenance one is very good if you want to say run it on Harugamo, because we all know that destroyers generally take preventative maintenance. It reduces the main turrets, torpedo tubes, steering gears, and engine from being incapacitated by 45% instead of the standard 30. This is very, very important. Because it helps you reduce your guns from getting knocked out, your torpedoes from getting knocked out, your steering gears from getting knocked out, and your engine from getting knocked out. I have seen Harugamos run Yamamoto extremely successfully. Extremely. And he is also very good in Zao. Because Zao's slew rate is very slow, as all Japanese cruisers are. So the expert marksman ability is quite easy. To pick up in that slot. I don't run it on my Hindenburg because I find that the turrets turn fairly fast. So it wouldn't benefit if I had him on a Hindenburg. I know he's Japanese, but if he were German, to do that. And then all three of those ships can actually benefit from these. I've gotten Krakens in my Zao, I've gotten Krakens in my Harugamo, I've got Krakens in the Yamato, just not since I've gotten Yamamoto. And then the First Blood ability is a really cool ability because, granted, you're not going to guarantee that you're going to get it, but all three of those boats have the potential to get the First Blood. I've gotten First Bloods in Zaos, I've gotten First Bloods in Harugamos, I've gotten First Bloods in Shimikazes. You could run this captain in Shimikaze. And I've gotten Krakens in all those boats as well. Don't get Krakens very often, but I have gotten them. Not to mention that the shells and all that stuff is all cool, but that can all be turned on or off depending on what you like. Now, on to the other captains as well. We'll go over and take a look at the French, which are way over here. I apologize. On the Honoré the Fourth. His special abilities, being Jean-Jacques Honoré, are the same as his brother, Charles Henry Honoré. But we'll look at the Henry first. His abilities are expert marksman and adrenaline rush. Why are these important to French ships, especially the cruisers and the battleships, as the destroyers have yet to come out completely? I know that there's a few out there, Le Terrible and the Aigle. Eventually they'll come out with some, I'm sure. These captains could benefit both of those boats as well, due to the fact that both of them tend to have sluggish turrets, and adrenaline rush is always good on a destroyer because it increases your torpedo load. But why is it almost mandatory for the Henry and the Republic? And I'm going to say mandatory for these. You'd be foolish not to get this. The reason being is because expert marksman on the Henry, or Honoré as you pronounce it, decreases the turret slew rate to 31 degrees. Now, that's pretty slow for a cruiser. In fact, it actually will not keep up with the turrets, will not keep up with the ship in a turn. It's extremely annoying. I know anybody that has a Henry will understand. I love this boat. It is a tremendously fun boat to play, but it can be frustrating when you're trying to make a sharp turn and keep your guns on target. But that ability will help you do that, because there again it adds that half a second on your gun slew that you don't normally have. Normally it's at half a second. This puts it up at 1. The adrenaline rush is also very good. That being said, because Henry, although she tends to be somewhat trollish in her armor, or bow on, or kiting away, if you do happen to give the slightest amount of broadside, especially to ships with a very powerful punch such as Musashi or Yamato, She tends to take a lot of damage from them. I think it has a lot to do with their long fuse time, but you will take quite a bit of damage, and that's going to obviously activate your adrenaline rush. Normally, adrenaline rush is 0.20% for every 1% of hit points lost. This buffs it up to 0.25%. Um, and obviously the reload on the Henry is one of the longest in the cruiser game, with the exception of, say, Stalingrad and Kronstadt, which obviously run 14-inch guns. These are 240 millimeter. Um, with the legendary equipped, I have it down to 9.5 seconds. The legendary being 8% to firing range, negative 12% to reload time, and obviously it took up my concealment spot and added 10% to my detection. So basically I'm at 16 kilometers, sans camo. So this thing, yeah, is basically a grosser Kurfürst, if you really want to look at it that way as far as her detection. But it's how you play her. You use her speed and her agility, you stay at arm's reach, and just pretty much daka as much as you can, while not getting hit and avoiding any incoming fire. So both of these abilities are very pertinent to this ship. You need those turrets to turn fast, and you need to be able to pump out as much DPM as you can, because you have your reload booster, but when you don't have your reload booster, you've got almost a 10-second reload, even with the reload mod or the legendary mod. And the adrenaline rush really does help that. It helps your torpedoes, but we all know that the French torpedoes tend to be tickle me torps. There's only three on each side. They run 9 kilometers and they're slow. They're last resort. They are not what I would say a close encounter kind of torp. You're not going to take out a battleship that's at 3/4 health with torpedoes on a Henry, unless you just happen to get both torps set off. I have seen it done, but it's not very often, because the Henry does have very good torp angles. But there again, adrenaline rush does suit that and does help that. But mostly what you rely on is your guns, and you rely on, that's why this expert marksman and the adrenaline rush. Now, to the Republic. The Republic benefits the same way. Now, this build is not going to be how I am speaking of getting these captains and why they're so important. Obviously, I do use the expert marksman on this gun, because the Republic's guns do slew pretty slow. They're at 33 seconds, not quite as slow as Montana's, but they're not the fastest in the game either. But they do slew fairly quickly, but obviously Battleship's guns are the slowest in the game, so you obviously want to get them around as quick as possible, especially if you have to switch sides and whatnot. And that's very important with the Republic, as the fact that you only have one fore and one aft turret. So if you are only be able to shoot with one set of guns, you're basically cutting your DPM in half, versus the normal Battleship, which has a super firing turrets in the front, which would allow you to bring 2/3 of your firepower to bear. Versus only 50% or half. Now, if you look at my build, the reason I didn't take Adrenaline Rush is because I ended up taking Preventative Maintenance, which obviously is very important on this ship, because if I lose a turret, again, I've lost 50% of my firepower, and this is a secondary build. It's probably not the most ideal secondary build. I'm probably going to end up changing a few things around. I currently run basics of survivability, but I may end up switching that to Superintendent. But I do have advanced firing training and manual fire control. The reason I do that is because I enjoy playing the Republic as a secondary boat. She has the longest secondaries in the game. They fire forward, unlike the Grosser Kurfürst, which does not. And it's just a lot of fun for me. She doesn't have the armor to brawl so much, but it does make it extremely annoying for cruisers and whatnot that do happen to wander into your range of 12.1 kilometers, which is a long ass ways. So I could swap this out, pick up a couple of other turrets, possibly pick up Adrenaline Rush, and then possibly Expert Loader, because the Republic does have a very good fire chance. She doesn't have quite the alpha damage that the Conqueror does, so because she has less barrels, and she doesn't have that Royal Navy HE, but she does have the exact same fire chance, but her AP is significantly stronger, and I find it suffices extremely well. It is currently right now my favorite battleship to play. It just suits my playstyle extremely well. It's the fastest battleship in the game right now, although, well, fastest tier 10 battleship, I should say. Iowa is the fastest, well, Iowa and Missouri. But she'll reach over 30 knots with flags and boost. It has decent anti-air currently, the way it's set up, but This is not the ideal build. Probably if you wanted to go more of an accuracy build, what you'll do is you'll swap out your modules, and instead of secondary battery, you'll want to go more of aiming systems to try to get those guns a little more accurate. Um, and you can switch out rudder shift for Damacon 2 to make her a little more tanky if you want to go that route. I do not recommend the additional main battery loader, which is the legendary. It drops your reload time by 18%, but you lose a 24% range. If I remember right, and you lose traverse speed. So basically what you end up doing is you end up losing almost 6 kilometers of firing range, which puts you down to 20 kilometers. I wouldn't recommend trying to snipe in this boat, but it is very nice to be able to launch salvos at long range when you need to. And also, I don't find that the bonuses that it gives you are really worth what the main battery modification does right here, which drops it by 12%. It drops it by 12%. My main battery traverse speed is negative 13%, or adds 13% to my traverse speed, and I'm already at 21 seconds. So I just don't see getting 6% more reload, which is, I think it boils down to somewhere in the neighborhood of right at 2 seconds to lose that much firing range. If I wanted to go more of an accuracy build, I would just change out my module here to aiming systems mod 1, which would give me 7% more dispersion, and obviously make my secondary battery shoot just a little further and make them a little more accurate. But also, it's kind of a lose-lose because I'm running a secondary build, so I obviously want them to shoot 20% farther and 20% less dispersion. So I don't really see the point of, if I'm going to run a secondary build, even trying to get aiming systems, although it is a very viable build if you want to go more of an accuracy type of build. And then I would probably, obviously you're going to lose this 4-point skill down here, which will allow you to pick up Adrenaline Rush and a couple of other skills as well. And you could swap out basics of survivability for Superintendent. You could even go so far as to take Vigilance if you wanted to try to be able to spot torps a little faster, although this ship is usually on the move, and it's fairly quick, so avoiding torps should be pretty easy in it. But yeah, he is extremely, him and his, I guess you would call him brother, are very good in both of these boats. You could use them in the Ayrok laterally for the Expert Marksman and the Adrenaline Rush as well, but as there is no current tech tree line, I do not recommend dedicating a special captain just to those ships, because both of these builds are not going to be anything near what a DD is going to run. On to the Royal Navy. There is Jack Dunkirk and his brother Bert Dunkirk. They have 3 abilities. All of them, though, are on the Tier 2 line. They are Jack of all trades, Expert Marksman, and Smokescreen Expert. This allows you to fit them into all 3 current ship lines, being the Minotaur, the Conqueror, and the Daring. Now, the reason that he is very strong and currently right now he's sitting in my Conqueror is because I want Expert Marksman, because as we all know, Royal Navy turrets obviously don't get WD-40. They turn very slow, and also not recently, but about year and a half ago, the heal and the repair party were both nerfed, damage control were both nerfed on the Conqueror. And the Jack of all trades ability takes the reload time of your consumables down by 10% instead of the standard 5. The other ability being Smokescreen Expert, which would be extremely good on Minotaur. I have not currently put it on yet. It or the Daring. I probably will. I'm just have not got around to it. I'm leveling other captains as well, but it increases your smoke screen by 30% instead of the regular 20%. This will make your smoke screen quite large, and with the Minotaur Legendary, which I'm currently working on, I'm almost there. Minotaur smoke lasts for days. It's almost like a US smoke. It will even benefit even more. Obviously, you do not need turret traverse on a Minotaur because they turn extremely fast. Some people could argue Jack of all trades would be good because your consumables would drop down by 10%, but I tend to find Minotaur consumables that are premium. Obviously, you want to run premiums on your tier 10s. Do fit in very well with that. So I don't really need that, so to speak. As you can see here, I don't even run it. Mine's more of an AA style build. Yes, I do run Adrenaline Rush on it. The reason I have Adrenaline Rush on Minotaur is generally because when I get hit by something very large, it takes half my health. I'm able to heal a significant portion of that, but in the meantime, Adrenaline Rush will kick up my torpedo launches. Torpedoes on the Minotaur are very devastating. They reload fairly fast anyways. As you can see right here, um, they reload right now with a base rate of 96 seconds, which is competitive to a lot of destroyers. In fact, beats most destroyers. They travel 10 kilometers. They do a significant amount of damage, and it does have quite a few on it. They're able to fire single fire, and so it allows you to go around islands and drop 8 torpedoes on each side. And I've killed many battleships and cruisers using that ability. It's dangerous in this ship because of the paper-thin armor, but it is available. But also, going back to the Conqueror, where I have Jack Dunkirk and his brother Bert, the Smokescreen Expert could be used for the Daring. Now, granted, the Daring smoke doesn't last very long, but this will make it 30% bigger instead of 20% bigger if you choose this ability. It does not need Expert Marksman, and it probably doesn't need Jack of all trades, as the smokes come up relatively fast. You could argue it brings up your heal a little bit faster, but generally you don't really want to be shot at on a Daring too much, because DD heals are kind of laughable, even even if they do have them on them. I mean, they really are. It's because it's all pertaining to hit points. So it's the heals aren't the best in the world, but I mean, it is something you could look at taking it that way. The problem is that to make the HE feasible on the Daring is the fact that you have to take IFHE unless you want to shoot AP all the time, because you can't penetrate anything with HE unless you have this ability due to the small caliber guns, unlike Harugamo, which has it built in. The only ability you'd want to possibly take is Smokescreen Expert, if you wanted to dump Adrenaline Rush for Smokescreen Expert. I don't know if I'd recommend that. I tend to shoot my guns more than the Daring than I do torpedoes, and the reload on the Daring is at 2.5 seconds, so it just kind of depends. I mean, Adrenaline Rush does have a diminishing return on the Daring because the reload is already quick on the guns. The torps do reload fairly slow. They're somewhere in the neighborhood of 102 seconds, so you're talking about gearing-ish levels. And there's no current legendary to change anything, so I mean, if you wanted to run Smokescreen Expert, you could have a very large smoke screen, but it doesn't last for very long, so I don't know if that's feasible, but it is something that you could look into. The other captain you want to look into for the Germans is going to be Franz von Jutland and his brother Reinhard von Jutland. As you can see, they give you Jack of all trades, and it gives you a tier 3 skill, Vigilance. Now, these are very good for the Grosser Kurfürst. The reason being is that Jack of all trades reduces your consumable time by 10% instead of the standard 5. That includes hydro, that includes heals, and that includes your damage control. So it is very, very good for a tanking build, Grosser Kurfürst. This one, there again, is a secondary build. I like secondary builds. They're a lot of fun. Grosser Kurfürst has very good secondaries. Granted, they can't fire forward, but they are very good on the broadside, and she has very good armor to back it up. Vigilance, though, is a very good skill. You could actually skip BFT. The reason I chose this skill is because when I was leveling this ship and leveling the captain up in it, I was running against a lot of carriers at the time, so I was trying to get my AA up as high as possible. But you could swap that out for Superintendent, Vigilance, or you could even go over here if you want to go tanking build into basic survivability and take Jack of all trades as well, and possibly dump something else. Like I said, if you want to do instead of manual fire control, you can go up to Jack of all trades and pick that up, and then pick up Adrenaline Rush as well. The cool thing about the legendary, which I highly recommend on the Grosser Kurfürst, is that it actually is very good. It reduces your reload time by 15%, your secondary battery time by 15%. On the downside, it does reduce your firing range by 8%, unlike the Republic's, which was 26%, which is a significant amount. It doesn't really hurt the Grosser Kurfürst. She couldn't really shoot that far anyways, and it takes it down to 19 flat. But it also reduces your traverse speed by 7%, which is negligible. It's at 36 seconds on her turret slew, which is about Montana-esque level. Actually, a little bit less if I recall. But getting that reload down to negative 15% on both your secondaries and your main battery is hilariously fun, especially if you run the 406s, because it will drop the 406s down to 24 seconds. and it'll drop the 420s down to 27 seconds. I prefer to run the 406s just because it's more fun. I find they do just fine in damage-wise. People say the 420s will punch through a little farther. I have seen mixed results on that, so I'm not going to comment. That's a personal choice that you guys have to make on your own. But as far as her captain skills, like I said, if you want to build a tanking style Grosser Cutter first, this is the way to go. Jack of all trades and vigilance. Vigilance gives you the acquisition range of torpedoes by a plus 35%. Grosser Cutter first already has the best hydro in the game. She can detect torpedoes up to 6 kilometers, so that will extend it by an additional 35%. I'm not going to do the math on that, but I'm saying that you're going to be pushing upwards of 8 kilometers on your detection of torpedoes. So it's a very potent skill, especially on a ship as large and cumbersome as this. As you can see right here on my upgrades, I do not have turret traverse because there again I am a brawling style, so I wanted to go with Damacon 2. So I'm trying to do a tanking style build. I could go steering gears and gain some rudder shift, but the stock rudder shift on this ship is 19 seconds. So I'd probably be gaining somewhere, I'm guessing, close to 5 seconds on my rudder shift, which is still not all that fast. And she's very, very large and cumbersome. If you wanted to run more of a tanking style build, that vigilance ability is extremely powerful. Like I said, even if you wanted to run a secondary build, you could still pick it up. Just drop BFT and pick up vigilance, or drop BFT and pick up superintendent. That's purely up to you. And as you can see with premiums, it'll give you 5 heals and 4 hydros, which are very good. And then, like I said, you can pick up the jack of all trades ability as well. If you wanted to, you could also take this same captain and put it in the Hindenburg, because the vigilance skill would be very good in this here as well. I know I don't have him on here yet because I haven't picked him up. I generally don't take too many torps in my Hindenburg, but some people do, and some people love the vigilance skill quite a bit. That's why I say it's very powerful. And then jack of all trades would obviously reduce your reload time of all your consumables, which is obviously hydro / defensive fire, heal, and on your damage con. Basically from there, you kind of build a unique ability to tank damage, because the legendary module, which I don't have equipped because I prefer the concealment, but legendary module, as you can see here, reduces main battery repair time by 50%, reduces fire extinguishing time by 40%, flooding recovery by 70%, and rudder shift by 20%. So it makes you a little more tanky as far as being able to put out fires. But I don't really find myself getting into a lot of fires or catching fire that often in the Hindenburg, not to a point where I just burn down. So it's not something that I really particularly care for. Some people love it, some people don't. That's personal preference. But if you did want to go that way, you could obviously, like I said, go over here, pick up von Jutland, and take the jack of all trades ability, and there again it would obviously reduce that even more. So as far as putting him in a Z52, not so much. The vigilance skill could be used, but most people don't run vigilance on the Z52 because you have hydro already. There again, same hydro as Hindenburg, same hydro as Grosser Cutter first. So vigilance would increase that to 35%, but it does not increase the ship detection, so it doesn't help you in that matter. You use your hydro in the Z52 generally to hunt DDs and to spot DDs and smoke, so I don't find it to be that useful on this ship. Not saying that you shouldn't put him on him, but it is something you could look at if you wanted to drop, say, torpedo armament expertise and pick it up. But if I were going to drop torpedo armament expertise, I'm either going to pick up BFT or superintendent, just to get those extra smokes and extra hydros. Going from there onto the Russians. As you can see, I have Ovechkin in my Stalingrad currently. That's only because I don't have the other guy leveled up. I just recently got to Stalingrad yesterday, but I will be leveling up Vasily Znamensky. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Apologize. This is a current Moskva build that I run, and you can see with the expert marksman, which if you look at the Moskva stock without a captain in it, her gun slew at 37 seconds, which is battleship level, and that will drop it down quite a bit. In fact, let me put him over there and see where it's at. drops it down to 31 seconds. So that's manageable. You know, you're in Des Moines-esque range, um, and it will allow you to get your guns on target a little faster. Um, but on the other side of it, like I said, Ovechkin does have a cool ability to where his tracers are blue. Is that he has expert marksman and survivability expert. Now, some people run this captain on their DDs or Russian DDs, and that is something that you can completely do. Um, but to get the maximum out of this captain, actually the ship that you should probably be running him in is Leningrad. Simply because Leningrad's turrets turn slow, and survivability expert is a core ability of all destroyers to get your hit points up, and he adds uh, a significant amount to your survivability. Instead of 350 per tier, you're getting 400 per tier, which adds up to about 500 hit points at tier 10. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but I know any of you destroyer players have lived on less than 500 hit points at the end of the game and done significant damage. You just have to play a lot more passively, so he is very good at that. So you could put him in a tier 10, but the tier 10 Russian DDs do not need expert marksman. Their guns turn plenty fast, and to get the most out of this captain in particular, being that he is a special captain, but not one that I would call super special, because he has some kind of weird skills right here that don't really fit battleships, they don't really fit cruisers, they only fit destroyers, but at the higher tiers, only one of the points actually does, and that's survivability expert. He actually fits the mid-tier Russian destroyers better, because you can actually use both of these in Leningrad, which is right here. I think I actually have it currently on my Gurmiyashi, but you can see Gurmiyashi's turrets turn slow, so you're going to use both of those, and I actually use this captain right here in my Leningrad and my Okhotnik to get those turrets on target faster, because as you can see right here, the main batteries turn at 21 seconds. That's extremely slow for a DD. Okhotnik without a captain in it is 32. That's very slow for a DD. And Leningrad without a captain in it is 24 seconds. They're again slow. Versus, let's just say, Khabarovsk, which I do not have expert marksman. You can see here, and her turrets turn in 10 seconds. Grosavoy, there again, I don't have expert marksman. Her turrets turn in 11 seconds. So it would be best to use this captain to get the maximum out of him in a Leningrad. But because at the time he was the only special captain I had that was Russian, I did need the expert marksman on the Moskva to get my turrets to turn faster. Now, that being said, I'll go over to Stalingrad and put in Vasily Zaminsky. This guy is very unique. Excuse me, I had to get a drink. He was built for the Stalingrad. And I assume that he will be very good. This is just my guess, that he'll be very good in the battleships that are coming out, Russian battleships sometime in the near future. He has preventative maintenance. He has expert marksman. He has high alert. Now, this captain is also very good in DDs in the fact that he has a preventative maintenance. There again, negative 45%. Very similar to what you saw with Yamamoto's Ayrok. The turret traverse is not so good at the high tier Russian DDs. Neither is the high alert, because damage control party on DDs comes up very fast. But on Stalingrad, like I said, he's only 11 points, as you can see. I'm working him up. Just recently got the Stalingrad. I recently got this captain. I will be using the high alert ability, as well as the prior prevention, because of the way that the Stalingrad is played, and Adrenaline Rush as well. But I will actually use all three of his abilities. So I am going to max this captain out on this ship to get all three of those abilities and how to use them. He can be used in other cruisers. He can be used in Moskva, because there again he has expert marksman. You can even use preventive maintenance on Moskva, because her turrets do get knocked out from time to time. You could use it for high alert for Moskva, but Moskva tends to not get as much focus fire as Stalingrad does. Stalingrad tends to be a magnet for anything that shoots HE to try to burn it down as quickly as possible. Like I said, all of these captains are currently available in the arsenal. Some of them I got through campaigns. For example, I got Franz in a campaign. I got Henry Henry in a campaign. He is not available in here, unfortunately. Vasily and Viktor Zemensky, the two Russians, are both available. Burt Dunkirk is available in here, but John is not because he was available during a campaign, if you're lucky enough to have them. My suggestion to you is if you have the chance to try to pick up all of these guys. At some point in time or another, they all have an ability that is very, very useful. I don't really need George Doe because I have Halsey already, and these captains, being that George Doe, like I said, is just like the others with expert loader and expert marksman, is pretty useless on, say, gearing, which obviously is these two abilities right here. I don't use expert loader and I don't use expert marksman because their turrets turn fast, and switching between ammo types is 3 seconds, so it's fairly quick. And then I don't use it on Wooster because they're, again, same thing. Reloads fast, same guns, 127s. Expert marksman, guns turn fast already. Expert guns already reload really fast. There's no point in using them for these abilities. And you'll need them for IFHE as well as AFT to get her AA out there to the range that it currently needs to be at. Until the CB rework, and then we can find out what these changes in these abilities are going to be. Other than that, that about covers it. You could use a couple of these captains, such as Halsey and Yamamoto, both in carriers. I am not currently the best carrier driver, so I don't feel like they're my strong suit, so I want to maximize these captains. I do have the midway. Here, he's at 19 points. I've been leveling him up, but I haven't bothered to choose anything else because with the CB rework, I'm not even going to bother it. Even though we're getting points back, I'm not even going to worry with it. I'm not even playing this carrier currently because it's maxed out, and the only thing I may do is tinker around with the legendary on it. But other than that, you could use it if you needed to. I don't know if any of these abilities are going to change, but the only thing you're really going to get out of using Halsey is the ability for, say, maybe a double strike or a Confederate. I'm not good enough at carriers to get either one of those, but you could get them that pop up over here on the Montana, as you can see here. But he doesn't really benefit the carrier that much. Yamamoto would probably do a little bit better because it would give you an extra consumable, but guess what? You don't have a heal on a carrier, so there's no point. The Kraken would be very good because your service time would go down by 16%. You would get a heal, but hopefully you aren't taking damage on a Hakario anyway, so, that's that. Other than that, that's about all for the special captains. I appreciate your time, and this is Ayrok with Armored Knights. Thank you.